name is Stelios. I'm an analytics and AI specialist at Microsoft, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today with all of you and talk about AI and innovation. I'm not used to be that cool in my day-to-day job, so being on stage, being all mic'd up, it's a little bit of a very cool experience, but I'm gonna enjoy it. How the presentation is going to go, I want to level set a little bit with all of you. We talk about AI. I'm pretty sure everyone is thinking different things in their head. So try to level set a little bit. Start from a high altitude and then try to make it a little bit more real for all of you on what it can mean for your business. We are all out of our offices today at a wonderful location. So what I want you is, please come with an open mindset. Start thinking how all these technological advancements can be applicable in your business and your day-to-day to make you more impactful and more efficient. And then towards the end, we will have some time for Q&A. So I had a cool video at the beginning that let me down this morning. So it's not just the weather that let me down, it's also my first video. But Microsoft's mission is to empower every person and every organization in the planet to do more. And that mission statement never comes more real than with the era that we are in, the era of AI. Let me start with a little bit of a history lesson and a history journey, because it's quite important. AI as a term is not such a cool term anymore. Actually, it has been around since 1956. And what we mean with that is that scientists back then, they wanted to teach machines to do what humans do. That's probably the best definition of AI that I've ever heard. And then in 1997, we moved into the era of machine learning. So within 41 years, which means if I'll show to the model 1 million times that this is a chair, then the model can understand next time it will detect a chair. And 20 years after we moved into the era of deep learning, this is when things started getting a little bit interesting, actually, because the models started developing their own neural systems and started learning in their own patterns. And then within 4 years, we are at the era of generative AI, where models generate text, images, and codes that we have never seen before as a humanity. And what makes it interesting and why all of us we are here and we're talking about AI is because all of these models work in natural language. So AI is not a niche play for data scientists and people who come from these backgrounds. Actually, now everyone who has the ability to talk or write in natural language, they can make use of these models. So we are in a completely new era. If I can give you one takeaway so far is, please remember, we don't talk just about AI, we talk about generative AI, and that unlocks a completely new era for us as a humanity. The trend is much bigger. Azure OpenAI or ChatGPT is making headlines. I tried to find a few headlines from credible publications, I think, and you will read on the press. First of all, is there anyone who hasn't heard of ChatGPT? I will not name and shame, but anyone? Sure. So ChatGPT is writing poems, is writing jokes, is writing books that you can actually buy on Amazon or anywhere else. It does so many things that it passes tests. So what it proves is that the only limitation to this technology comes from the human imagination. That's why I'm saying, from whatever I will share with you afterwards, let your imagination work freely and without boundaries and see what this technology can mean for your business. I think it's quite important to explain a little bit the relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft. OpenAI started a couple of years ago as a non-profit, wanting to exploit what they can do with large language models. And the reason why they started as a non-profit is because they believed from back then that this technology can be so powerful that it will transform humanity. And if it was not them, it would actually be the government who will bring it to us. It is as powerful as the internet. So they started as a non-profit, but very quickly they understood that they need some large investments, because in order to train these large language models properly, Microsoft and OpenAI, we built one of the 5 most powerful supercomputers that are known in the planet. As you understand, we talk about the supercharged AI when it comes down to this. And this is when they started the for-profit arm. It's all public info. They got a 10 billion investment from Microsoft, and that's why we have the exclusivity of the OpenAI models on the Azure cloud. So without me pitching Microsoft too much, if you're if you're looking at investing at the platform, I'm really proud to work for a company that is really promoting innovation. So this is a little bit about the relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI. So what generative AI? It's a cool term to throw, but effectively, when people ask me what can this technology do, I try to summarize it around 4 pillars. The first pillar has to do with it creates text. So you give it a prompt in natural language. I'll say write. I was testing it last night. I was like, write a joke that British audience will understand, and came up with something quite sarcastic, so it can even understand cultural nuances a little bit. Or write for me a poem for my kids, or write a joke for my colleagues. So it can generate text. The second capability is the ChatGPT. And what makes ChatGPT quite interesting is that it is a bot, effectively, a conversational bot that many of you either use or you are familiar with. But it's a bot that, because it understands the semantics and the logic of all of the documents that it is scanning on the background, it gives much smarter answers and interacts with the end user in a much more sophisticated way, which results in better customer satisfaction, etc., etc. So the second pillar is a conversational AI, supercharged, as I like to say it. The third one is again very, very interesting, because it writes code. And not only it is writing code across multiple languages, but it can translate natural language into code. I'm not a coder myself. I was never asked studios to go and sit and learn how to code. But now my problems are solved, because I can give a command and say, write code in SQL that will pull up the names of a certain database, and then it will translate my prompt in natural language to the code language that I choose to. And the fourth one is image generation. This is what we call as DALL-E. So again, you give it a prompt in natural language, create an image of, I don't know, someone riding a unicorn on a train, and boom, it will create it. So these are the 4 main capabilities that, that generative AI or Azure OpenAI has. One thing that I want you to see is that probably you're all familiar. For so many years we were saying that AI will eliminate blue-collar jobs, blah, blah, blah. Blue-collar jobs are just fine, but here, as you see, it goes more into the creative space, and now people who work in creative industries, they can use AI, and the generative nature of it, it unlocks so many more opportunities, because when it's writing text, when it's creating images, it's actually quite interesting what creative agencies can do with that. So we see, and that slide has a little bit of a build. I will ask you please to ignore all of this text, but again, let's stay on the headlines. So if these are the 4 main capabilities of Azure OpenAI, how do we see customers use it? And again, because I want you intentionally to let your mind run free, I'll give you again buckets. So the first one has to do with content generation. Customers are using it to automate responses. So if a certain company is using agents to reply to emails or type emails or answer inquiries, now they are experimenting using Azure OpenAI to draft these responses, create this content, and generate this content. So content generation is one use case. The second one has to do with summarization. Many of you will have large databases or archives of digitized assets, and many times you don't want the 3 trillion pages of something, you just want a one-page summary. So again, Azure OpenAI can summarize for you all of these assets that you have and give you what you want. And what is interesting about summarization is you can set the parameters. I might say, summarize this for me in 3 bullet points. I might say, summarize it to me in 2 pages and write like I'm addressing a PhD student. Or I was asking, write me an essay on why it's raining, because I need to explain it to a 7-year-old and it will adapt the language and how deep it is going. So summarization is also very, very powerful, exactly with the parameters you're going to set. The third one, I touched on that, the code generation. And where we have seen is customers where they have lots of legacy applications that they try to integrate, and their teams might not have knowledge in every coding language that they need. Again, the GitHub Copilot, because that's this pillar around code, can bridge that gap. And the fourth one has to do with semantic search that I also love, because going back to my point about summarization, that all of you have lots of assets. When you try to find something across your archives and you use keywords, how many relevant results you are getting back, how much time still you need to spend to go through the results, synthesize that, put that together. There is a better way. So keyword search is not making the cut anymore. So again, you can ask Azure OpenAI to find you exactly what you're looking after your documents, and boom. And because it understands the semantics on the background, it can provide much smarter results. What is interesting about semantic search is that CIA in the US, they declassified a bunch of documents about the JFK assassination, and they are using these services to go through all of these documents. And actually what was really interesting, they're using the Microsoft technologies. They could associate a code name that CIA was using for the suspect with the actual name of the suspect, just because the model could understand the semantics on the background. So these are the 4 pillars of use cases that we see more in action with our customers. Of course, we talk about powerful technology that can transform the world, but we need to do that responsibly. So this is again where I pause for a second, and hopefully you all feel hyped up so far, but now it's time to talk to you a little bit beyond the hype. So as Microsoft, when we're building these technologies, we have 6 principles that we stay to. The first one has to do with privacy and security. We understand that all of our customers who are using AI models, they have really sensitive data, and some of their most valuable data go through these technologies. So all of these technologies have been built with the highest level of security and privacy to ensure that your data is your data, and they don't leak, and nobody sees them but you. The second principle has to do with reliability and safety. It doesn't matter if 1 user or 1 million users are using the services. We want to make sure that still the service is performing with the SLAs that we promise you that they will. The third principle has to do with fairness. So we ensure that these models don't have any inherent biases and they treat everyone the same. Then transparency is also a very important principle. When someone is provisioning a Microsoft AI service, we don't want AI to be this black box that none of you understands. Every service is coming with transparency notes, and also we and our partners like Bytes, we're happy to sit down with you and explain as long as it takes, how these models have been trained, how these models work, how they give certain results, so you feel confident and comfortable with how these models work. Inclusiveness. We have 1.7 billion people out there with visible and invisible disabilities, and we want to make sure that AI is a force of inclusiveness. So we also want to make sure that this technology can be used by everyone. And probably what is the most important one has to do with accountability. Our accountability as Microsoft or our partners like Bytes accountability doesn't stop once you provision the service, but we stay with you as customers along this journey to ensure responsible use of this powerful technology. Of course, all of these are just principles. They don't explain the how. Rest assured, and I didn't want to bore you with that because there's not enough coffee in this world that will keep you awake, but every one of these principles, they come with tooling that can prove these statements, so we can check that these models are fair and then they don't have biases. There are impact assessments that you can run for your organization. So at the moment I kept it quite high level to try and keep you engaged, but rest assured there is lots of tooling on the background for people much smarter than me. So how I want to kind of conclude that section before we move to the Copilots with just one slide is that I want you to be assured that when you provision these services, your data is your data. Everything is being deployed on your Azure subscription if you have parts of your business on your cloud. We as Microsoft or OpenAI, we don't see your data. We don't use the data for training. Your data is your data. And obviously, everything is protected by the highest level of enterprise security. So, I had another cool video that let me down this morning about Copilots, and please, I urge you, next time you will go on YouTube before you find what cats can do this week, search Microsoft 365 Copilot. AI is a technology layer that you will see that going in every. It's definitely every part. It's coming into every part of our business at Microsoft, but probably, and that's my bet, you will see that being part of every aspect of our life. So this is where we came up with a bunch of Copilots, as you can see here. Our friends from Bytes, they mentioned that before. The reason why we named it Copilot is because still it's the human that is the pilot and it is taking the ultimate decision. So all of these advancements are just to accelerate your path to innovation. What these Copilots can do is, if I'll take the Microsoft 365, let's take Outlook. I personally detest spending time on my Outlook, reading emails, drafting responses. They come with mistakes in English many times. So what Copilot can do on that example is it scans my emails, it is giving me a summary, it is flagging what needs urgent action from me, and it is drafting responses that I'm reviewing, and if I'm fine, I'm pressing click, and it sends it out, or I'm doing some minor refinements when it's needed. Or PowerPoint. You will never know if these are my slides or if Copilot did that. Again, my PowerPoint skills are pretty dreadful. So with Copilot, you can say, build an 8-slide presentation or a 10-slide presentation on that topic, and use this font or this background, or this is the audience. And again, it will build a draft presentation for me to review without me having to spend time on PowerPoint or Excel. I know a few formulas, but by no means I'm a wizard. So again, I can say through my Excel, show me my most profitable customers or my best performing products, etc., etc. And again, it can scan on all of my Excel databases for me. I use the M365 Copilot to share with you because this is what most of us or all of us are using, but of course it goes across our security proposition. On coding and GitHub it is already available, for it goes on our business applications, etc. This has been my last slide, so I have to finish with a big thank you for listening to me and hopefully having your brains work on what this technology can mean for your business.